Trend lines are one of the most underrated, yet one of the most powerful tools any trader can ever get. What is up, beautiful traders? How you guys doing? I am doing absolutely lovely, and I know you had an absolutely beautiful week. I mean, if you did watch this weekly analysis, you had a really good week because we had this trade playing out, this trade playing out, this trade playing out, and I did not analyze 3 trades only. I had like 4, 5, 6 analysis laid down for you guys for the previous weekly analysis, and I'm sure that 90% of all of those have played out really well. I've only managed to check out Nasdaq, US30 and gold because I was playing around with those during the week, and we had an absolutely beautiful week, right? But this week I'm not going to analyze each and every chart for you guys. I'm not trying to make the video, too long. But in this video, you're going to learn a simple strategy using only trend lines on any chart of your choice to maximize on each and every setup that you're going to get on the market. Sounds good? Yes, sir. But before we get into all of that good stuff, if you're new to the channel, welcome. We trade Nasdaq over here. If you're returning, welcome back. You already know what's up. Don't forget to hit the like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. Why? Because when we hit 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to be doing a little giveaway, funding 10 different accounts and giving 10 different people free mentorship. You know what? I'm actually going to pick one subscriber from this particular video and just fund the account to just start up the giveaway. We're almost halfway to 10K. So fun fact, Nasdaq actually took me out on Friday. I actually took a loss on Friday, and I'm going to explain to you guys why I ended up taking that loss. But right now we're going to go on to these charts and go over the trades that I personally took from last week. I actually managed to trade gold, Nasdaq and US30 because I did have beautiful setups that I gave to all of you beautiful traders, right? And you already know that we ate with the inner circle, right? So right now let's go onto these charts and get this thing rolling. As you can see my screen over here, right? You can see that this whole week we only had 3 trades on Nasdaq, 2 being really good trades, and then 1 being a losing trade, which was on Friday. And listen, guys, losses are part of the game. Even the biggest and best traders that you know out there, they take a loss. You just sit down and be like, oh, that's an expensive dinner that I had to pay, and you move on with your life. You know what I'm saying? Right now, as you can see, we had our Nasdaq over here, and obviously this was on, I think this was our first Monday trade right over here. Yes, this is a Monday trade, and then there's nothing too crazy. This was during the session. You know that we like to trade during the session, and you can see that we had the institutions playing around over at this zone, right? Obviously, I had to go on a lower time frame to actually catch that move. You can see there we have it right over here. This was the institutional zone that I used. Had a little gap right over here, and I told y'all in the group right over here, I was like, guys, we do have a gap on Nasdaq. As you can see over there, we have to fill in the gaps. Normally, when you see the charts having a gap like this, they normally fill them in within the first day, that is Monday. If they don't fill it in on Monday, they're just going to not fill it in for that week. That's normally, it's not compulsory, right? So take note of that. So I did know that the gap had to be filled. And then obviously it came into our institutional zone and it rejected right at that zone. So that is the reason I took the sell right over there. Minimum drawdown, I mean, nothing too crazy. We ate with the group right over here. You can see this is the result of the trade. It was an absolutely lovely trade. On Tuesday, we never had any trade on Nasdaq or US30, right? And then this was, Wednesday, we had a trade on gold, right? We had a beautiful trade on gold on Wednesday. The reason why I took this gold trade at this point, I think it's already obvious because you guys already understand what's going on, right? So we obviously, during the session, and then we have an institutional zone over here. We can see the rejection right over there. So it came into a zone and then it rejected, and then it first came in right like this, right? So it probably would have entered here, but I was not looking at the chart at that time, right? So it went up a little bit and then came back. This was even more confirmation because we had a little double bottom at an institutional zone during the session. So we absolutely just went in for that beautiful buy, and it was lovely. And then on Thursday, so that was Wednesday, right? And then on Thursday, we also had a gold trade, but I think on Thursday we took a Nasdaq trade. So Nasdaq was my favorite on Thursday. Yes, you can see this beautiful trade too. So the thing is, actually guys, if you notice, I'm actually just trading exactly what I have taught all of you guys, right? So it's during the session, you can see we had this lovely trade. The only boring thing about this trade is I actually left really early. I left the trade really early. I don't know why I did that. Played out really late. You can see that this is around 11 o'clock when it then pushed up at this zone, right? So that was actually the reason why I had to just close it. So this is price action that we use right over here, and this was during the session. We see that it was a point of interest, the previous bank zone that we had. So this was kind of like a resistance, right, that was broken, right, and then it turned into a support. So for that day, this was now a support, right? So we were looking at what price action would say during the session at a support level, right? So it was resistance that turned into support. You always want to wait for confirmation before taking any trade, right? So that is what happened. I did take the trade, and then I closed it right at the next resistance zone. So it was over here. And then the reason why we then came to our losing trade on Nasdaq, if we go on our 15-minute time frame, right, you can see that we were having a little bank zone right over here, right? So we're having a little bank zone at this particular zone over here. And then so the first one would have been this one, right? And then the second one being that one, right? And then you see that the market came into this zone and it rejected literally. This is a big rejection on 15-minute time frame. It formed the next candle. It was a rejection, and I was like, yeah, it's rejecting at this zone, so I'm going to take the trade. And then I took the trade right over here, and then it just reversed. And I don't know, I guess it's because I ignored the fact that we are actually on an uptrend, and I was now looking for the selling positions. And this wasn't painful to me, because the thing is, it's actually reacting at another bank zone, which now brings us to our Nasdaq analysis for this particular week. So if we go and do our top down analysis, we can see that we have a lovely zone right over here. So this is going to be our point of interest for this particular week, right? You can see that this is like a literal bank zone. There's a lot of money resting at this particular zone right over here, right? We have different type of candlesticks, so the market played around a lot at this particular zone. Remember, from last week we did break this particular zone, right? So that was a liquidity zone from that particular trade. In that other video that you watched, we actually took this trade, we took the sell right over here, and right now it's coming to retest. You're saying that if the market comes right to this zone and then shows you good price action, maybe a pin bar or a bearish engulfing, you're going to go in for a really nice selling positions, because this will be like break, and then this will be a little retest, and then it continues down to the bottom, right? So I do understand that we are supposed to learn trend line analysis. We're analyzing Nasdaq using the trend lines. So this is what we are going to now do when we go on lower time frames. On the higher time frame, you already understand that mostly it's going to be selling positions. If it now rejects and comes into the zone, obviously that's when you know that we are going for the buys. But we're going to go on to the lower time frames, right? So what is a trend line? A trend line is just the same as these horizontal lines over here, but then it's just slanted, right? So it's just slanted, and a lot of people, they tend to misuse trend lines. So you always want to have the overall trend. So to draw a good trend line, you have to start from the lowest swing point, connect it to the next point, and then draw it like that. So there's not ever a day where you ever draw a trend line from a week and then connect it to a body. So if you draw it from a week, you have to connect it to the next week. If you draw it from a body, you have to connect it to the next body, right? So you don't need to draw these type of trend lines, because the market is far away from that trend line. By the time all of this plays out, you would not have had anything to trade, right? So you always want to go and draw the most recent trend line that you're having, but this one you'll be using it for direction, right? Normally people like to draw the bottom and the uptrend line. That uptrend line is really not necessary if you already know the overall direction of the market, right? So in this case, you can see that this is our trend line that we'll be interested in, right? Because you want what is happening in the market almost immediately. You're going to take it from here and draw it like this, right? So the simple strategy for trend line analysis is just, you draw your trend lines. We have one touch, two touch, and then the third touch, as usual, the third touch is supposed to go also in the direction, but there is always going to be two possibilities, right? So this is what the market is already looking like. So what are we saying? We are saying this is also part of the weekly analysis, guys. Don't think I'm just analyzing this. This is Nasdaq weekly analysis also. So this is on 15-minute time frame, and you're going to be looking for these opportunities in the session, right? So we are saying that we are at this zone. Consider the fact that we have this zone right over here where the market currently is, and then we are going to have this zone where it can come and reject, right? Also, we have the zone right at the top, but we are not going to consider this zone only for scalping positions. If it breaks the zone, closes outside, you scalp this to this particular zone, because we already know that this is a resistance level, right? So what are we saying? We're saying that we want the market to come to this zone, and then since we have this as a resistance, it broke, right? It was a resistance, broke, now it's a support. So we have support and we also have a trend line. It's a really strong zone. So we're saying we look at price action at this particular zone, and then if it rejects here with good price action, a pin bar, an engulfing candle, we know that we're taking it up, riding it right to the top. But normally what the market does is it will come and fake breakouts right over here, right? And then it would then push, but you would have thought it had broken out. So we want to look for those candlesticks that I just mentioned, pin bar, bullish engulfing. If they are there, we buy. But then if it breaks out, we don't immediately look for selling positions, right? We wait for it to come to this zone again, right? You can see we had a little impulse move over here. And then if it comes here, we also look for the same candlesticks. And then if we find them, we also buy, right? And in the case that it's not going to do that, it's going to come and then play around at this zone and then form, you know, a break of this trend line, and then kind of like a retest. Now it will start retesting around about this zone. You see that it will be failing to break these zones. That will be like a little retest. That's when you know now you're going to sell. Or it will just come, reject at this trend line. Instead of forming the bullish signals, is going to form bearish signals and break out. That's when you know it has to come back down to these zones over here and then go down to the bottom. So that is basically it for our weekly analysis. That is not complicated at all. I mean, trend lines are really simple. A lot of people use trend lines to trade and they're not that complicated to understand. You just need to know how to draw them and which ones are the high value trend lines, right? So in this case, I just did a little simple analysis for you guys using the trend lines on Nasdaq. So capitalize on each and every setup during the sessions that you might actually get, right? But if you did enjoy that video, you already know what to do. Smash that like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. You feel me? With that, it's been Tino, and I'm out. Peace.